is. Family on 2, 1, 2.
Love what we've done throughout the course of training camp. You've seen individuals get better throughout the course of it. You've seen units get better.
Y'all know what the time it is, man. Every time we step in this building, we play only one way. Your ass physical and relentless. It's us. Come on. It ain't them. It's us.
Welcome back to the Blue Chip Breakdown, Vols fans. We are your hosts, Bull and Bray. Pete will probably be joining us later on, probably like towards the end of this show. But man, this is a big day. This is a huge weekend, the first Saturday of the 2024 season, and I think that our guy right here might be ready. Let's bring him on in as well. We got Timmy G in the house. What's going on, Timmy G?
What's up, fellas? How you doing?
Man, we are doing well, and man, we are very, very excited for this Saturday. Obviously, we're here to talk about our Tennessee Volunteers versus the UT Chattanooga Mocs coming up at 12:45. Y'all see my nephew breaking on this ugly red G stuff. That is hideous, but so we'll talk a little bit about other college football things as well. But man, I know that everyone's very, very excited. Let us know what you're the most excited to see from our Volunteers in today's game inside of the chat. And Timmy G, I'm going to start off with you because a whole lot of things have happened throughout this entire offseason. Obviously, we have Nico coming up. This is his first real start, okay? It's not really his first real start. This is his first start inside of Neyland, okay? He's starting off the season, as the guy. So it is a little bit different compared to what happened in the bowl game. But, obviously, having Cam Selden kind of going down and, then coming back, sounds like he might be ready for this game. I mean, there's a whole lot of storylines. James Pierce, number one player in the entire country, et cetera, et cetera. But what are you the most excited to see from our Vols today?
Wow, man. There's a lot I want to see. I mean, I really want to see how the secondary looks. That's my first thing. The only thing is I don't know that we're going to get to see it because I think the D line is just going to be a problem for the teams that we face this year. We'll see, man. I think the secondary, that's what I want to see the most.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know what? We'll talk about that here in just a second, but that's the thing I'm going to be watching the closest. Really, how do those safeties look? Because, I feel fine about both of the cornerbacks. Star, I feel good at, but, man, those safeties, I don't know. I'm still – that's up in the air for me. But let's talk about Nico, Bray, because I think that you had a couple things that you wanted to say about Nico. I want to hear what a UGA fan has to say about Nico Iamaleava, the golden boy, chosen child, $8 million man. Go ahead and speak on that, bro.
I'm just excited to see Nico in his kind of first, true setting to start the season. I want to see how he looks. Other than 20 years, I think this is the best quarterback Georgia's going to put on the schedule. So I'm just ready to see how Nico looks in his first, true game, the SEC at Neyland Stadium.
Yeah, I would say, y'all, just because, I've watched so much film on UT Chattanooga. I kind of flipped the page to NC State here lately, but I would say that Nico should be able to have a nice, clean pocket, okay? Of course, we got to watch that offensive line. How do the left guards look? But I think that Nico should have a good, clean pocket. He should be able to operate. Our wide receivers should have some opportunities down the field, getting open. How do they look as well? But I feel like we'll probably try to rely on that running game a little bit more in this one. And also, Nico will probably use his legs. I would say 4 to 5 times. We will have some designed quarterback runs for Nico. I'm excited to see how that looks. But let's go ahead and pull up real quick here, y'all. We'll just kind of go through some of the stats. Okay, so this is from UT Chattanooga last season. Y'all can see what their offense did. I mean, averaging about 400 yards per game. That doesn't wow you by any means. I mean, it's good, but it's also on the D1 AA level. And then 5.81 yards per attempt, 27.5 points per game. I think that we, again, of course, we know that we are going to be able to outmatch them physically, but they do have a pretty good offense. I like their scheme. I think that they'll be able to do some things just to kind of test us in some aspects to see how good we are in different levels. But also, looking at the passing numbers, I mean, 245.3 yards per game, about, 1.5 touchdowns per game. That's not great. Rushing numbers aren't great either. They're giving up 1.3 sacks per game. Can we beat them? Can we get more sacks in this one? I believe that we will. Now, let's talk about some of their key players on offense. The starting quarterback, Chase Artapias. He's like a 6th or 7th year senior, start off at UCLA, transfers into UT Chattanooga a couple of seasons ago, goes down towards the end of the season last year with some sort of a shoulder injury, but he's back. I actually think that this guy right here, Luke Schomburg, is going to be the better quarterback. He's more of a, he's more of a baller, right? I feel like, Chase is going to be a good game manager. So we'll, understand how to play versus him. I think we'll be in the right spots, expecting some interceptions early on. But then as you go on down, Reggie Davis at the running back position, I like him a lot. I think he runs hard. How do we look in run support? Our linebackers need to look a lot better than they did last season. We'll see a whole lot of RPOs, stretch zone plays, wide zone plays, outside zone, all of that, which we struggled with last season. This will be a good test to see have our linebackers taken that next step forward is to be in the correct spot. And then, they've got a couple of wide receivers. All their guys play hard. But just in kind of looking at this, Timmy G, what are some of your takeaways with the stats and things like that with the UT Chattanooga Mocs?
I mean, I know a little about the Mocs. I think they're a good team for their level, right? I mean, I don't think they're going to test us that much, but you never know with teams like this, man. They're going to come out. They know what they're facing, right? I mean, they're going to pull some tricks and do some things and try to catch you off guard and leave it all out there. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we'll be fine here. Bray, do you have any thoughts on these numbers and these players, things like that? I mean,
not really.
This is really, I'll just pull this up just to get everyone used to what's going to happen for the rest of the season. We really don't have to go through this, but I mean, some people might just want to know, as far as their defense, I won't even go through all the numbers because I don't think that's really even relevant. What we're going to see with them is going to be a 4-man front, and we do well versus 4-man fronts where there's running, pass protection, all of that. They're going to blitz every now and then. They're going to play a lot of basic coverages, cover 3, cover 2. So I think that Nico will be able to identify what they're doing. And that's another part of the reason I think he's going to have a really huge game. I think he's going to put up some phenomenal numbers as long as he's in. And we'll see how long he does get to go. This is some of their key players. I mean, they've got some veterans here. They've got some D1 AA All-Americans here, especially those 2 defensive tackles. I think that they're both good. Would you want to say something, bro?
No, I was looking.
No, okay. Yeah, so I think that they're both pretty good. We'll see again. How does the interior of our offensive line hold up? The biggest thing in this one, y'all, is just going to be to stay healthy and to execute. That's what it's all about. Now, let's get to the starting offense. I just want to bring this up for a point of reference for everybody. But, I would say Timmy G, right? I'm going to ask you, who do you think is going to have the biggest day? And it could be somebody from the 2nd and 3rd string, whoever it is. I mean, Nico might be one of my picks, or you can even pick several people. But who do you think could end up having a really big day today versus the UT Chattanooga Mocs? Or who are you looking for to have, a really productive day so that we feel more confident and comfortable going into the NC State weekend?
Let's go. You want one on offense, one on defense, or you just want it on offense?
So you can go multiple right here. So we'll start off with the offense, and then we'll move on over to the defense after this. But who do you think just from the offense? You can name several people, whoever you want. Who are you looking for today the most?
I think on offense, two people. I think Ethan Davis probably going to have a big day, and Brazel. I think those two are going to flash on offense. I think he's going to try to use tight ends a lot in this game. We'll see. Defense, I got to go with my man Arian. I think he's going to ball out, and I think that guy, he looks like he feels more comfortable in the defense, and he's dropped some weight, and he looks like he's going to be scary this year, man. That's what I think. But yeah,
I like those. I mean, I think that those are some excellent picks. I mean, you know what? You really just can't go wrong is because we are so deep. That's the crazy thing is that this season, well, we've never had a team with this sort of depth, especially I'm not going to say ever, but up under Coach Heupel. I mean, it's like not even close. We're going back to those former days whenever it was always Tennessee and Florida in the East. And, UGA was that was an afterthought. We didn't worry about them. That's 9 years in a row, baby. But we are getting back to that. And I think that we do have enough depth this season to challenge teams like UGA, like Ohio State. Who else is really good out there? Maybe Oregon you could throw into that same mix. Alabama, Texas, of course, Texas. I think that we are there, but we need to see it today. So if I had to pick a few players, of course, Nico, I want to see him operate. Just looking really good. But I'm also going to skip on to the offensive line, left guard. I'm watching that one really closely. I need to see who's going to be the best guy because I like Andre Carrot. I like Sham. I also like Jackson Lampley. Those are three guys that we trust. But I trust guys like Sham and Jackson Lampley a little bit more just because they have been available. I think that Sham Umrov is going to give you the most upside. He's a younger guy. He's a little bit more athletic. He's bigger. He's longer. I think he does a much better job at pass protection, really everything. So he's my guy. I think that once we get to the Oklahoma week, we've got to find our starting left guard, the guy that's going to be the guy. And I feel like that's going to end up being Sham Umrov. But it seems like the staff is showing a little bit of favoritism towards Andre Carrot. We'll see what happens, but I'm going to be watching him very closely. Also, Lance Hurd, the big-time left tackle transfer from LSU, number one offensive tackle in the entire country in the 2024 class, right? Bray?
I think it's 2023.
Was he 23?
Yeah.
He was 23.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So number one in 2023. But how does he work with this up-tempo offense? Is he going to be in shape? I think all these guys need to play at least 2 quarters just to see what sort of shape are they in. So I'll talk about the left tackle, left guard. But man, Timmy G, I think that you kind of called it right there with with Chris Brazel. He's one that I feel like he's going to have a whale of a day. Obviously, Squirrel White's good. How does Brew look coming off of a really big injury? And then too, look at those running backs. Dylan Sampson. We're not talking enough about D. Samp. He's a dog, okay, but we got a whole lot of other people behind him. So I go on and on for days. Tight end room too. Yeah, I mean there's several studs in there. Ethan Davis is going to have a really big day. But what do you think about this? Because I know you know a little bit about our roster, but what do you think about what you're seeing right here? I know it's a whole lot of ballers, and
I think if people gonna have big days there, I think it's gonna be Dylan Sampson. But I'm looking forward. I feel like Tennessee's gonna get this kind of in check quick. I'm looking forward to see Mike Matthews on the offense side of the ball, and then on defense, I'm looking to see Boo Carter at star. See how he does. That's pretty much all I can say. Yeah. And Gerard McCoy at corner. I love his film. I like him a lot.
Yeah, so now kind of going back to the defensive side, I think that Jamal McCoy playing at corner, he's one. I'm telling y'all of offense, he's going to be a star. I can see a pick 6 in his future. UT Chat does a whole lot of throwing the ball out to the flash real quick. He's going to jump it at some point. He's really good. Ricky Gibson. I mean, I want to see Arion Carter, right? Yeah. So look, Timmy G, we talk so much about Arion and just how special he could be playing right next to Keenan Pili. But what are your thoughts on the linebacking core? Because, man, that was such a weak spot for us last season. I feel like in 2022, that was a weak spot as well. If you look at, where we kind of lost that the most versus UGA, also versus South Carolina, you can look at those linebackers and say those are the games that they did not play well in. But now we've got a lot more athleticism and people who should know what to do and can play faster. But, Timmy G, what are your thoughts on that linebacking core?
I think it's going to be improved. We had some really talented young guys that got thrown in a little too early for them. I mean, Arian would tell you that. I bet you, T-Lander, right? He would say the same thing. I think they're both going to be great. I think they're going to be fine. I think we upgraded on our linebacker coach this season.
I do too.
It's just, I could be wrong. We'll see how the season goes, but that is a very, very smart man. And the way he talks to the kids and explains things and makes it, look, you can have all the experience in the world, but you've got to be a good teacher. If you're not a good teacher, then what's it matter, right?
Yeah, right.
So, and I want to say this too. As far as most excited to see, before you asked about who I thought was going to have a day, but who I'm most excited to see, and I don't know if we'll see him or not, but that's Peyton Lewis. I want to see him in there. Yeah. But yeah.
Who was that?
Peyton Lewis.
Oh my God, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Listen, Peyton Lewis looks like a grown man out there. He's about 6 feet tall, 6'1", 220-something pounds. I mean, he looks like he's about 230, and he might be the fastest player on this team. All of a sudden, we're talking about a running back room that, coming out of last season, Timmy G, we were concerned. We said, hey, listen, we have to go to the transfer portal and find somebody right now. It's because we didn't feel like we could do it. But I think that we'll have a whole lot more confidence because of guys, as a true freshman, Peyton Lewis. I think he's going to look very impressive today. And then also, listen, Deshaun Bishop has looked good every single time that I've seen him. He runs hard. He's downhill. That's what we like. That's what we love as Vol fans. It's going to be very reminiscent of the 90s. Whenever we had a whole bunch of guys we kind of put in there that were just going to give their all for Tennessee. But yeah, I think that running back room is one that some people have kind of been sleeping on. But I think that they will be better than anticipated, and we need that. Of course, with such a long season, we have got to be able to run the football and do it with a lot of different bodies. So Peyton Lewis, I think that was a phenomenal pick. Of course, we kind of talked about it some. We have got to touch on our secondary, more specifically with the safeties. Now, Boot Carter, I think he's going to play well. I think he's going to ball out today. He's going to be very impressive, in my opinion. Christian Harrison, Bray knows the whole family very, very well. They're actually really close. But I think that he's going to play well also. But whenever you look at those safeties, I'm going to tell y'all the truth. I think that Andre Turntine is a really good football player. I think that Will Brooks is also really good. And like I've talked about before, I've got a couple of question marks with them, and it's completely opposite. I think that Will Brooks shows that physicality. He's going to come up and run support and knows what to do. But what is he going to do if they isolate him one-on-one with a guy that can really go? We're talking about, let's just say, for example, Luther Burden. Yeah. What if they isolate Will Brooks with the Luther Burden, or next weekend versus NC State, KC Concepcion, right? He's a guy that I think is very similar to a Luther Burden. What would he do in those types of situations? Those are my questions. And then for Andre Turntine, will he be physical? I need to see that from both of them today. I think that Kobe Thomas and also John Slaughter will show some of that. I want to see Christian Charles. I want to see Edris Farouk. Who else we got in there? I want to see – I already talked about John Slaughter. Yeah, so, those are pretty much the guys that I want to see as far as the safeties go. But, Timmy G, what do you think about that safety room?
That's why I'm so curious to see it, man. I mean, it's a whole revamped unit, right? I mean, I think we've got a lot of young guys that are untested. I think we got some guys that are really going to ball out. When you hear somebody like Chris Brazzell talking about Ricky Gibson and some of these guys, I'm excited to see it. I think our DBs and they only have to be so much better than last year. They don't have to be spectacular, because I think the defensive line is going to help those guys out a lot this season. But we do need them to, don't give up the big plays. That's what we need.
Yeah, so I think that that's an excellent point. And Bray, you can kind of talk to this too, just because you play corner, you also play safety.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of play everywhere inside of that secondary. But maybe you can kind of talk to what you know about how the front seven works hand in hand with that third level, and just how important that is.
Yeah, especially especially when they pass the ball, because if you can get pressure, you only got to cover somebody for 2 seconds. Then the ball's just gonna be in the air, and you just gotta make a play. Especially when you got guys like James Pierce, he's gonna affect the throw. So all you gotta do is cover for a little bit, and then it's gonna be good stuff that happens, and it also helps in run support because you gotta your pass first, but you also gotta come in run support. So if your D line can get a push, it just helps you a lot. So the secondary and the front seven, it goes hand in hand, like you said.
Yeah, and so we haven't really talked, Timmy G, too much about that, really about our front four. We kind of talked about the line back and forth. But obviously, whenever you have a guy like James Pierce up front, who is just – I don't think that there's anything that really anyone can do to stop him. Yeah. You can only try to slow him down. You try to go, away from him, maybe try to run at him, things like that, which towards the beginning of last year, he wasn't great in run support. But towards the end, he got really good at just, everything, which – it's part of the reason I believe that now he's like a consensus top 5 pick in this upcoming NFL draft. But I think that it's not just about James Pierce. It's about who's going to be on the other side, who's going to come in to kind of spell James Pierce. And what people don't understand is that Tennessee is so deep up front that we can bring, maybe not – I'm not going to say we're going to bring James Pierce on every single play, inside every single way. But it's not going to be that much of a drop-off because we got some dogs, right? I mean, talking about what's Joshua Josephs, Caleb Herring, Jordan Ross, all of those guys, you trust them and you know that they've got the same type of twitchiness and that upside to affect the quarterback at the Leo position. But then on the other side, we got Dominic Bailey, we got Tyree West, we got Tyree Weathersby, we got Jason Jenkins, we go on and on. So just talking about the edge play, it's crazy. But I think that I'm very much looking forward to seeing our defensive line proving to the entire country that they are who we thought they were. Timmy G, how many sacks do you think James Pierce and maybe our entire D-line as a whole could end up getting today? Do you think that they will get to, UT Chattanooga's quarterback with the way that they kind of operate is RPOs, get the ball out of your hand quickly. But do you think that we're just too much even, for that style of offense for them to stop us from getting sacks?
I think you're going to see a lot of sacks. That's what I think. I think there's going to be a lot coming from everywhere, and that's going to be the problem. I think first of the year, you might see there are people going to try to double Pierce, and I think that's going to create problems elsewhere, and that's a problem with this D line. It's so much depth at each position. They're going to be rotating 13 guys. That's insanity. That's insanity. That's a lot of guys, man. And there's not a lot of drop off between those guys. And they've got a Swiss Army knife on the D line for just about everything. You want a run stopper? Put in Big E. Yeah. That is a mountain of a man. He front squats 700 and something pounds, something ridiculous. He's got tree trunks for legs. Supposedly sings like an angel. Go figure. Yeah. But they've got a lot of weapons, man. They've got a lot of weapons up front, and I think they know that, and I think that's why they're so excited about this season. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and you know what? That's. I love that you kind of segued us into the interior of that D-line because what people really don't get is it's not just about the edge players, but whenever you talk about a guy like Omar Norman a lot, I feel like as a player playing at defensive tackle who's gained 15, 20 pounds this offseason, who was a dog last year, excellent in run support, but whenever you talk about getting after the passer, I mean, that's the guy that I think he's going to be one of the best in the entire country. I think that he could potentially work himself up. I would say for sure second round pick, but he could work himself up into the first round. He's that sort of talent. It just all depends on will he bring it every single day. And we heard some of his stories about playing out there at Arizona State, having to be a bouncer at some of these clubs and stuff. So he's seen a whole lot. He talked about some of his upbringing and just how that was just really coming from the streets. But I think that he's a guy that we all need to be watching and paying very close attention to. He will ball out. Bryson Eason is another one. I think he's very twitchy, very similar to an Omar Norman a lot. But then you got guys like Big O, Big E, like you said, that can come in as run stoppers. And by the way, David Hobbs, this is his second year. Yeah. You take the biggest jump from your first to your second year. I think that David Hobbs is another one for us to look out for. You know a little bit about David Hobbs from Charlotte, don't you?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think I kind of remember.
5-star guy?
I think I remember when he was coming out. I think George was in on him too. I think he chose Tennessee, obviously. But I think I kind of remember when he coming out. process. He's kind of from the same place David Sanders is, right? Like around that area.
Yeah. So he's from Charlotte, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So both of them are from Charlotte. Tennessee's doing a phenomenal job in the North Carolina area, Charlotte, all of that, and that's where we've got to be good at and stay good at. So we're not going to talk too much about that today, but yeah, there's several people who we just kind of named off that are from that area. So I mean, you got to be very confident with what Coach Heupel is doing out there today. I want to kind of switch gears some just because the headset stuff has been something that people have talked about so much. And I think that, we will be able to use it to our benefit today. But it'll be interesting, Timmy G, if that slows down our offense even a tick, because Coach Heupel is all about the numbers. He does not want to slow things down. But what do you think about the headset stuff? Do you think that we'll use it, and do you think that it will benefit us, or will it hurt us with the tempo and things like that?
They're going to use it, but I don't think they're going to use it in the way that you've seen. Like, what was the first game of the year there? Florida State and
Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech, like where you see the kid and he's doing this and he's trying to hear and all. I think they're going to call the plays just the same way they normally do, and they're going to use the headset for, hey, watch this safety here, watch this blitz here. I think it's going to be very quick notes because Heupel was a quarterback. I think he knows more than anybody the worst thing you can do to a kid in a high pressure situation is give them too much and then, confuse them and slow them down. I think they're still going to use the tempo. They're just going to use the mics for like footnotes, basically like, hey, watch this. This guy might be open on this situation, something like that.
Yeah. So that's about how I think it'll be used too. I've been watching it closely. So with Oklahoma, I watched them some last night. I was impressed with like the first, I would say close to like the first half. Really in that first quarter, they looked very, very good on offense. I think they looked very dominant. Things kind of dwindled off though. And I think that part of the reason for that is they got very basic with their play calling. Said, okay, we're going to win this game big. Let's not show too much. And, of course, they pulled their star quarterback out. But I just kind of watching them, I thought that they would go a lot more tempo than they did. So teams that you would anticipate should be more tempo type teams. I don't know. I mean, for some people, it might hurt them. But Timmy G, I think that you bring up a great point. If you use it just for like footnotes, then it should help you. You can still signal in all the calls. And, especially for a guy like Nico, this is his first season as the guy. Sometimes he might need some, like, hey, look, make sure this, make sure that. And I think that it could really only help us. On defense, it should be extremely beneficial. I love Keenan Pili. He's a guy who's played a whole lot of football, 25 years old. But then also, I think that Tim Banks, as a defensive coordinator, he's one of the best minds that I've seen. I love a lot of the different things that I've seen out of his scheme. So I think that them working together hand in hand, our defense should look really, really good versus some better competition this season. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Nah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they use it because, going tempo. But I think I liked what Timmy G said about, just the different, pointing out like mic combos and stuff like that, like where the O-line needs to block. So I think that's going to be very helpful, especially for Nico because, like you said, it's his first year, and it's like Chris Brad's first year in the system too. So
yeah,
making sure everyone knows what to do, I think that's going to be very helpful.
No, you know what? So that's an excellent point. And I mean, so Brazel won't be on the headset, but at the same time, I think that it could maybe benefit
him.
Some.
Telling him what to do and stuff like that.
Because then the coaches can say, hey, Nico, make sure that Brazel knows, blah, blah, blah. But that's a really good point. We've got several players that have transferred in. How are they going to acclimate to our system in the first week? Because listen, it's not going to be a perfect game from us. There will be some mistakes somewhere, but from the first to the second week, we should make gigantic leaps forward. We'll see what our floor is today. I feel very good about this one. But Timmy G, would you like to go through some of these picks with us? Because we're going to talk about some more college football stuff. We're planning on getting done right here, y'all, at about 12 o'clock, just so that we can go ahead and tune in for the UGA Clemson game, all of that. But Timmy G, what do you think about that, man?
Yeah, man, I'm excited. It's going to be a great day for football. We've waited forever for this, and I'm so glad it's here.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to start off right here with the big showdown. Noon Eastern time. It's going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, inside of the Benz. We got Clemson versus UGA. And UGA, so this is from last night. I don't know if the spread and all that stuff has changed, but from ESPN last night, UGA was favored by 13.5 points. That's about 2 touchdowns. And the over-under is 48.5. Would you like to go first, Bray? And then we're going to let Timmy G go.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I definitely excited to see how we come out today. My biggest question with Georgia, kind of like y'all, is the safety. We got Malachi Starks on one end, but the other safety, I'm not sure it's gonna be. I don't know if it's gonna be Dan Jackson or the young freshman KJ Bolden. So I'm really just excited to see how we look today. And but I definitely like us. I'd say 38-17. I feel like it's gonna be a great show. I think Carson Beck's gonna show he's gonna win the Heisman this year. And, I'm ready to see it.
Okay. All right. So Timmy G, what's your pick for this? And we just kind of, who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to cover? Things like that.
I hear you. Well, I know who you want to win, and it's not who Bray wants to win. But yeah, now I'm going to take Georgia on this one. I think Georgia's going to handle business. Clemson, man, they just haven't. They have really seemed like they've fallen off to me. I don't know. Maybe their defense is better than I know. I don't know much about them. But the only questions I have for Georgia is how's their offensive going to look? I know you got Carson Beck, but who was the main weapon last year? He's not there anymore. Was it Brock Bowers, right? Wasn't that the man? Seemed like he was involved in every single play. So who's going to be the guy this year? Is the running game good? I'm anxious to see it. I still think SEC over everybody else. So I'm taking Georgia, even though I don't like Georgia. Let me say that. But, yeah, I'll take Georgia to win. I think they cover.
Well, I think that's a very smart pick just because, on paper, Georgia is the deeper team. They are the better team. Yeah. But at the same time, it's not as much of a gap in talent from UGA to Clemson. I think Clemson has the top 5 roster, right? And I think that they're top 5 in the entire country.
Ratio, yeah, probably.
Yeah. So they're top 5 from that perspective. They still have Alabama at number 1, and they've got Georgia at number 2. I think Ohio State was number 3. And then, I don't know who number 4 was.
Oh no, but I think they're
either Texas, I think it was Oregon.
Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon's number 4. But anyway, so Clemson's still top 5 from that perspective. Now listen, y'all know that I can't stand Georgia. I don't like Dabo Swinney either. I don't like Clemson. But I'm a fan of Tennessee every single weekend, and I'm a fan of whoever the hell Georgia's playing every single weekend. So, of course, I am going to be going for Clemson. I think that as long as Club Nick comes out, and if he doesn't just absolutely wet the bed, then this is going to be a much closer game than what that spread says. I think that it's going to come down within like one score. It could be a field goal, could be a touchdown. But I'm going to give the edge to Clemson.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm going to give that edge to Clemson is because Mickey Kahn, is a co-defensive coordinator for Clemson, and I've coached against him. I've seen him do it, and he is an absolute and total dog of a coach from X's and O's. He will get it done. I think that he'll be able to slow down Georgia's offense enough to make sure that we can win this ball game. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Clemson for the first one. Let's go on to the next one. And we've got Vandy versus Virginia Tech. Do y'all even want to do this one? We can actually skip this one. I don't think we even need to do this one. We'll skip that one. I had that one queued up just in case. But let's talk about another really big one. 3:30 in the Swamp. We've got Miami versus Florida. Miami's favored by 2.5 points. The over-under is 54.5. Bray, I'm going to let you go first. What do you got?
I like Miami in this matchup. I think they kind of brought in a lot of people during the portal. I think Cristobal is trying to really get that program back. And I want to see how Cam Ward comes out today in his first, test. And I feel like this is a good test versus a talented Florida team. So, yeah, I like Miami in this one.
Okay. Timmy G, what you got?
Man, I mean, I think Miami's got the better team, quite possibly. But they are playing in the Swamp. And the Swamp it's a factor, man. It is always a factor. I want Miami to win, to be honest. That's who I want to win. I've got too much Tennessee in me, man. The Swamp's such a huge factor for me. It's beaten me down over the decades. I'll take Miami, but I don't know, man. It's going to be a close one.
Yeah, so Timmy G, I'm right there with you, brother. I was like, man, I don't know who to pick in this one just because I think that, whenever you look at Cam Ward, right, I mean, he's a potential Heisman candidate. I love what I saw from him playing out there at Washington State. I said, this is the guy who is a baller. And I I don't know how well he's going to fit into this Mario Cristobal offense. I mean, I think he's going to look well. I think he's going to look good. I don't trust Cristobal. That's the biggest thing for me. Yeah, and I also think that Florida still has a pretty good roster. Now, there's some people who have been picking them to win 6, 7, 8 games this season with a really tough schedule with all the people that's left that program. I don't see that happening. I think that they will maybe overperform. What it's like 4.5 is what I think.
It's 4.5 or 3 now.
It's something like that. It's something astronomically low for Florida standard. So I think that they'll do a little bit better than that. But I think that they're going to be a team that's on the cusp of trying to be bowl eligible. I think that things start to kind of unravel maybe today. That's kind of what I thought at first. But since this game is in the swamp, I think that Florida might actually pull this one out. I just do. And it's something about that, that Gainesville swamp voodoo that they do down there. I think that, I could see Florida win this one. Of course, I'm going for Miami. I'm going for the U. That's my second home. But I don't know why. It's just a gut feeling. It's just an instinct. So I'm going to go with Florida to win this one outright. As far as, I'd say that it could be about a 7-point game. It could end up coming down to a field goal. But that's an old school rivalry. I think that was going to be a whole lot of fun. Let's go on to the next one right here. Tonight at 7:30, we've got Texas A&M versus Notre Dame. Texas A&M was favored last night by 3 points. The over-under is 46.5. Bray, I'm going to let you do the honors first. Who do you got?
I love Texas A&M this year. I think they're probably one of the most underrated teams in the entire country. Let me get Texas A&M to win this game and win it big.
Oh, wow. Okay. Timmy G, what you think about that, man?
I think Notre Dame's gonna play them tough. I don't expect anything big in either direction. I'll take Texas A&M just because they are at home, and that's a really good atmosphere to play in. That's going to be kind of tough for Notre Dame to come into, but I think Notre Dame could win it. But I'll take Texas A&M just because they're at home.
Okay, I like that. I think so too. I think that Texas A&M, that's a team that, this was probably like a month or so ago when we're just kind of going through all the schedules for the ACC teams. They are a team that I had picked to overperform what people think. I think that Elko is a heck of a coach. Yeah. Look what he did out there at Duke. Yeah. And, I think that they've got some pieces there. Of course, they've got plenty of pieces. Several guys have left. But Notre Dame losing, it was at least one starting offensive tackle?
Yeah. I know of one.
Okay. So losing one tackle, that's going to be big, especially playing versus, an SEC opponent that's got some dogs up front. I'm going to go with Texas A&M, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of close. This is a game that I feel like Notre Dame really needs to win because they don't have anybody else left on their schedule. So if they lose this one, of course, we know that they're, the NCAA and whoever's doing it, whoever's picking the 12 playoff teams is going to try to put Notre Dame in. But if they lose this one, I don't care. You would have to kill everybody else on your schedule if you're Notre Dame to really deserve to get into the playoffs, in my opinion. So this is one that's big. I think it's bigger for Notre Dame than it is for Mike Elko and Texas A&M. Now, we've got one coming up tomorrow night, 7:30. It's going to be in Las Vegas. We've got USC versus LSU. And this right here, it says Miami is favored by 4 points, but it's actually supposed to be, I believe LSU is favored by 4 points. But who do you have in this one?
This is a tough one. I like LSU. I like Gary Nussmeier, and I like the scheme that LSU runs. They brought back one of their top receivers from last year. I think his name's like Conrad Lacey or something. So I think LSU's going to come out and win this game. Yeah. But I feel like this is my game of the week right here.
I don't know if that's the game of the week over. It's a couple other ones. Obviously Georgia, Clemson. But anyway, Timmy G, what do you think about this?
I'm not buying any of the LSU hype. I think LSU can win this one. But the problem I have with LSU and everybody talking about, LSU this, is their defense was hot garbage last year. It was not good. They lost a Heisman quarterback. They lost a lot. We'll have to see it. I'm not buying the hype on them though. I think they can beat USC, but I don't think LSU is going to be LSU of old this season. No,
I feel like once they got Brian Kelly, I knew that it wasn't going to be the same at all. And I feel like, LSU is a team that's always been like hard-nosed, front seven play. Now, their offensive line could end up being the best in the entire country. But Timmy G, like you said, their defense is bad. But you know who else the defense is really bad? USC. So that I think that this is going to be a shootout. As far as the over-under, I'm going to take the over on that. I mean, that's, I think this could be like a 50 to like 54 sort of game. Yeah, this is going to be – they're going to score a whole bunch of points. We'll see. I am still going to ride with LSU, even though I don't believe in them as a team that will come out of the SEC to, kind of fulfill all the hype that some of the national media has given them. But, I mean, listen, dude, Lincoln Riley is terrified of the SEC. He runs from them. He runs from us all the time. So I think that his team is going to kind of play a little bit scared, but we'll see. They will have some success, I believe, versus LSU's defense. But give me LSU, I would say, in a tight one, but it's going to be a daggone barn burner. So now we've got, for the 7:30 game coming up on Monday, we've got Florida State in a potential bounce-back game, favored by 16.5 points over Boston College. The over-under is 49.5. Bray, what do you got right here?
I like Florida State to bounce back in this game. Give me Florida State, and I think they cover.
Okay. Timmy G, what do you say here?
I mean, yeah, this should be obvious. I mean, Florida State should win this one, but boy, if they don't, I'm here for it, man. I want to see. I do want Boston College to win just because I want to see all that Michigan fans melt down, just like they did in the World Series there when we were playing them. But yeah, I think FSU is gonna finish the deal here. So yeah, I'll take it. I'll take FSU.
Yeah, I would have to ride with Florida State in this one too. I think they might really take it to Boston College. I mean, they're going to outman them. I mean, completely and totally on the field from a physical perspective. But all those players, all the coaches have been hearing about, man, the front seven's weak. They're soft. We're going to see them play up to their full potential today. I still think that Florida State is a good team. I really sincerely and genuinely believe that Georgia Tech was the better team if they played 10 times. I think that Georgia Tech might win 6 of them, 6, maybe 7 of them, something like that. But I think that Florida State will still be in the hunt to make the playoffs by the end of the season. But we will see. And that right there, y'all, is going to bring us up to just about the noon hour. So we're going to go ahead and clock on out, man, and take a look at this Georgia-Clemson game. Of course, go everybody except for UGA or everyone who's playing against UGA. Man. We'll see how our Volunteers do. I know that we're going to be very dominant. We will see y'all after the game. Probably be about 15 to 10 minutes after the game ends. But go Vols. I hope that we have a great one. I hope that we all stay healthy. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Timmy G, you're a daggone rock star, brother. Appreciate you for joining us. As always, y'all make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. We're going to see y'all in about 3 or 4 hours. Thanks. Peace.
Go Vols.